Thanks for tuning in, folks. We are live, and we have no time to waste. There's too much stuff to cover, so we're going to get straight to it. We see a cycle 24 plage forming, as well as a whole bunch of other stuff that's quite interesting. So let's get to it. We're going to look at some other views of the sun in a minute. And let's shut that music down to background level so you can't even hear it. So we do have an interesting plage forming right here. And where'd you go, Epic Pen? There it is. Having a little technical difficulty there, Epic Pen. All right, there we go. So area of interest here to watch. Area of interest here to watch. We don't see any umbra rising yet. Let's look at the 171 angstroms view at full res. We will also look at 193 angstroms in 1 minute. First, we'll let this one play through. My personal favorite, 171 angstroms. And this is just the last 7.5 hours. So we do see an active region rising there. Looks like a sunspot. Keep an eye on it throughout the day to figure out if it really is or not. In fact, when we look later during this broadcast, we might see the umbra by then. Also, we see this forming down here. We'll look at it more in depth in a minute. First, let's look at 193 angstroms. And we're going to look at a whole bunch of other stuff, so stay tuned. Should be an interesting episode, to say the least. Zoom in on this active region here. It's a hot spot. Let's do one more view here, 304 angstroms, before we move on. So we see big filaments associated with that likely sunspot. Some filaments ejecting here off of the southwest also. So an uptick in solar activity here, folks. 10.7 centimeter radial flux is up to 69. All right, now let's move on. As like I said, there is a lot of stuff to cover. So here's a real-time solar wind. Let's see, BT is pretty low here. BZ is right around the 0 line. So we see a kind of an equal distribution there of polar fields. Phi angle's been shifting around just recently. Something to keep an eye on. We don't really see significant coronal holes facing the Earth, though. Solar wind densities drop down to 3.31 protons per cubic centimeter. Solar wind speed 432 kilometers per second. Next, we'll do magnetosphere movies, starting with the velocity. Let's give that a minute to load, and we'll let all three of those play through. So here's the velocity. If it loads, and there you have that. Next, we'll look at the density. And that would be the magnetohydrodynamic density of your earthly environment. This is 4 hours of data, and we do see the solar wind density dropping there, and here's the pressure, which we would anticipate to be fairly normal here, as the wind speed has dropped off a little bit, and the density has dropped back to a solar minimum type level. Again, 10.7 centimeter radial flux back up to 69. And we see the majority of the pressure here on the magnetotail side. I'm sure the ionosphere map will corroborate that information. Let's look at the geospace ground perturbations. First, we're going to look at the poles, and then the globe view. We have been seeing some significant gyrations in the magnetosphere here at the ground level. We do see a standard Birkeland current style spiral there associated with the South Pole as it migrates toward Western Australia. The main perturbations in the north remain over northeastern Canada, not over the Siberian pole, although we do see a couple perturbations headed over that way today. Here's a view from the globe. And we see South Pole spill into the South Pole spilling into the southern Indian Ocean there. North Pole is kind of headed right toward me here, as I am located in Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. Eastern PA, if you're not aware, which is the east coast of the US, considered a mid-Atlantic state. Let's look at the electron content as we typically do at this time of day. And we're seeing more nominal electron flux levels than we saw yesterday. Actually, there is a big dip there, so we are expecting to see a dip. Probably not as big of a dip as 2 days ago. Talk about the mission. That's the smAsho mission, which is to assist, study, and report on the ongoing formation of a unified theory of physics, to raise the awareness of the general public of the relationship between space, weather, and Earth effects, to connect and consult with media organizations to multiply our reach, to demonstrate cutting-edge proof-of-concept solutions to problems, to publish scientific papers in a multidisciplinary manner, to assist mankind by advancing the study of predictive phenomenon, and to not be ossified in our beliefs. So please help us out on our mission by supporting us in any way you see fit. Every little bit helps. And I am a bike racer also. I ride for theveloshop.net, so please visit their site. A little bit about theveloshop.net. It's owned by local cycling favorite Becky Quinn, endorsed by Olympic gold medalist Marty Nostein. And that's our team. If you want to sponsor the team, if you're a corporate sponsor and you want to be on the jerseys for the low price of several $100s, you could possibly get on our clothing. So email me at smashommatch@gmail.com if you want to do so. Here's what the ad space will look like. Although there's a disc wheel on this bike now, and I don't wear that blue color anymore. That's the old stuff. I won't look exactly like this, but there is space on things like my helmet. Also, if you want to sponsor me directly, thanks GoFundMe types. We're trying to raise $5,500 by summer, and it's been a bit of a slow slog. And let's take a look at the synoptic map here. It is noting the filaments. No umbra yet, no named sunspots. And I don't know what that's all about. That's really old. So just completely ignore that. All right. And let's actually look at the LASCO C2 here, as we've got a big plume of plasma rising up over the east. And it is large enough that it might be visible on here. This is 48 hours. And there you see that plume starting to rise. That's not really ejecta, I don't think. It is bound to that rising sunspot. Let's just move on because there is a lot of stuff to cover. Again, for the third time, 10.7 centimeter radial flux is at 69. Check out the mammatus clouds, one of the rarest cloud formations you'll see, right up there with lenticulars. Mammatus clouds over Sao Paulo. Here they're talking about reverse polarity sunspots, it looks like, as we mention this regularly. There we go. spaceweather.com is talking about the reverse polarity sunspot that we covered on the channel a couple days ago. 2 days ago, this sunspot formed and then evaporated more quickly than it could be named. That's a cycle 25 sunspot, folks. Spaceweather.com agrees. Although the plage that's now south of the equator is a cycle 24 plage. So I'm not sure if you know what that means or not, but if you do a little research about sunspot cycles and polarity reversals of sunspots and their location, their latitude off of the solar equator, you'll understand sunspot cycles better. We see the X-ray flux is totally flatlined here at spaceweathernews.com. Thanks, spaced out viewers, for tuning in. Now, we see basically lower lows and lower highs as forecasted in the GOES magnetometer yesterday and the day before. Not a lot to look at here. KP is at 2, and we actually see a rising electron flux level here. So we're going to get into some GPS errors here, as 10 to the 5th is pretty much the electron storm level. Charging hazards are still minimal, though, a little bit over Central America and Northern South America. F2 layer is looking highly discharged on both the nighttime and daytime sides. So that's an indication of a bit of incoming charge there, especially on the nighttime side, and large disparities associated with the day-night terminators. The terminators. The aurora forecasts are before you now. There is the Australis. There is Borealis. Look at cosmic rays real quickly. Here's Apatity in Barentsburg. Here's Athens. Bring up the chat while that loads. Thanks for joining us, folks, and leaving a comment. We appreciate the interaction, and we will get to you momentarily. Here's Mexico City. If we're not staying on these long enough, feel free to pause the video, folks. We'll be here when you get back. Here's Moscow. And here's Oulu, DOMC, and DOMB Antarctica. There's Oulu. Here's DOMC Antarctica. Here's DOMB Antarctica. Welcome, Harry and Janine and Kalo Jan and Dakota Horn. Cheers. We're hoping everything drains and that planting proceeds, as there's quite a mess going on in the central U.S. and the southern U.S. Let's look at a couple transients. If you're not familiar with Sagittarius A-star, it's the galactic core. Here are the recent transients from Sagittarius A-star. I may be a little more spaced out than you are. Sagittarius A-star in a weak output phase. Let's look at Cygnus X3, otherwise known as Deneb. Which is the north celestial pole at the other end of the precessional cycle. Also gone down into a weakened state here. I would note 30 days ago a very dense set of transients. And let's look at my favorite radio galaxy, Cygnus A, otherwise known as the catchy name of 3C 405.0. And we see a similar ramping down. So now I do believe that Sagittarius A-star is somehow tidally bound to Cygnus, possibly even the radio galaxy. I'm not going to get into that anymore because it's a little bit too much for this broadcast. Here's the Gong 2, and we see this bit of dense plasma here coming up over the east. That is associated with that sunspot group, which is why it looks like it's floating above the corona here. Magnetic fields block magnetic fields. That's what's going on in the magnetosphere. Let's move on. Well, I should say the heliosphere. Let's look at Stereo A space weather beacon, as we do most days, just to see if there are any coronal mass ejections not associated with X-ray flares, as you don't need an X-ray flare for a CME. can have a CME. You can have plasma slingshotted from the opposite side of the sun at the Earth. So we see that large plume of plasma rising associated with the sunspot. Nothing else of note. This is the last day and a half. Some kind of a comet looks like it dove into the sun here. Trying to get a view of that. The heck did it go? There's the frame. Actually, that looks like something coming out of the sun. It looks like plasma going right past stereo A or something. You can see it's denser where my pointer is. Nothing too exciting, but an oddity. Here's the location of the planets if you weren't aware. Milky Way galaxy team for the win. Here's where they'll be in 1 week. Earth entering into the Jupiter opposition mode. Mercury blows past Mars, and Venus plays catch-up. Venus doesn't play with its ketchup, and it prefers mustard if it's going to consume a hot dog. Here's the location of the stars over my head. And once again, if you're up before dawn, you should be able to see Jupiter and Saturn up there. The moon should be rising in a couple of hours, and Venus will be rising too, making for a great view if you have a low eastern horizon. Follow us on other social media also, such as Instagram. Here's a small hike on the Appalachian Trail yesterday near Lehigh Gap.
Previously, I've never hiked the west side of the Lehigh Gap. I'm only doing a slight little stint today. Never been here before, but I'll be back because it is epic.
We even occasionally feature recipes on here, and we endorse products occasionally, and sometimes we screw around.
It's today's burgers and 2 tops.
The 2 top
One
burger. 2 tops, 1 burger.
Enjoy the burgers and.
So, some super important stuff going on Instagram. Not a lot of space weather stuff. Also follow us on Twitter. Follow us on Facebook for your censors, bans, declining share price, etc. Thanks, Mark. Also follow us on minds.com, minds.com/smAsho, the social media that won't censor you. Also follow us on Gab, our latest social media endeavor. Only 5 posts. Thanks for putting stuff up, smAsho staff. Dakota, I don't know about 90-day corn. I would predict there's enough of a growing season for 90-day corn. I don't want to say too much else about that because the forecasting value of trying to forecast specific spots is a crazy idea. Now, if you haven't pressed like and subscribe, please do so. We are making these videos daily. We're about 1 week from our 1-year anniversary of a space weather video every single day. Had a big quake kickoff yesterday, practically as our broadcast was closing out at El Salvador, a 6.6. Let's hope a tsunami was not generated. Apparently no tsunami threat from the earthquake, so that's a good thing. Shout out if you're watching from El Salvador. We want to know if your dishes fell out of your cabinet. Here's a 4.8 in Peru. 4.3 at El Salvador. Looks like an aftershock. Here's a 5.7 at Tonga. Largest quake there in a while at a very deep depth. If you're watching from Tonga and you felt that quake, please leave a comment. Here's a 4.7 at Peru. At depth, heads up there for a larger quake at the surface. Here's a 4.4 at Japan. 4.3 at El Salvador. Looks like another aftershock. Here's a 4.1 in Iran as the Middle East earthquake swarm continues. About one a day in the Middle East lately for the past, I'll say 10 days. Here's a 4.3 in China. Thanks for reporting China. Here's a 4.1 British Virgin Islands, as we have seen an uptick in Caribbean quakes as well. 4.3 at Martinique. Again, Caribbean quake. 5.4 at Indonesia, at an incredibly deep depth there as the unrest continues in that area, 569 kilometers depth. And a 4.6 off the coast of Michoacan. Shout out Cheech and Chong if you're watching this video. Leave a comment. And please endorse us on your social media, as we're not yet at 1,400 subscribers. Now let's look at windy.com for the pressure maps, as anomalous low pressures are associated with earthquake risk. And let's see what we can see, if anything. So we'll just let the pressure map play through here. We do have some odd wind patterns here in this entire area. Basically, the entire system there is moving backwards. Watch out for a big quake there. That latest 569 kilometer deep quake, along with this like minor low pressure system moving backwards, that's serious. Low pressure systems are supposed to move west to east, not east to west. If you see one moving east to west, and you're in an earthquake-prone zone, that could be an indication an earthquake is coming, especially if there's been a deeper quake recently. I hope that makes sense. Everybody can predict earthquakes. Perhaps learn how if you don't already know. And Windy, you're going to have to give me control of my computer back as we endorse your fantastic app. We get the giant word Google off the screen. Oh, that doesn't work, does it? Oh, no. Does it say Google up there? Sorry about that. Let's look at the weather.gov map here. If I'm able to operate my PC. There we go. Wow. Thank you so much. Sometimes websites are a bit intrusive, folks, to say the least. Anyway, there are your weather threats. We still see, what is this? Winter weather advisories? Frost advisories in the northern peninsula. Man, oh man. No rest for the U.S. Here's a U.S. Doppler radar. And actually, there is a little bit of a respite. It looks like the weather that's been flooding the crap out of my area has finally chilled out. We're going to ignore weather segments pretty much today, except for this article, talking about how severe weather that plagued the Ohio Valley and Mid-Atlantic has finally come to an end as another twister. So we are 14 days in a row now, folks, with a tornado every day. And if you think global warming causes tornadoes, I suggest you learn anything about atmospheric physics, because cold air is what's required for tornadoes, not hot air. Not to mention, there are a lot of folks blowing hot air. We're going to cover it in a minute. Check out the lightning over Texas. I'm not sure which way it's moving. Holla. Snyder, you are about to hear thunder. Anyway, check out lightningmaps.org if you haven't yet done so. Let's look at this convergence zone down here, as this looks pretty intense. And we like to cover the electromagnetic fields that are above your head that become evident when you understand what you're looking at. So here's another prime example of one, I'm sure. This is your local Earth spot. And you will note lines that look just like penumbral lines in these convergence zones. These parallel lines right here. See those parallel lines? Those are caused by the Hall effect. And you see them all the time perpendicular to the motion of the water vapor. So we look at the water vapor for the main reason here is to be able to see water vapor that is not yet condensed onto a cloud. I would also note that dry air is more massive and tends to be colder than wet air. So just keep that in mind when you're looking at your weather maps, and use the water vapor map to give you a better idea of what the Doppler radar is telling you. Recommend Brave browser, brave.com, to avoid so much spam on your computer. And to avoid so much spam in your search results, check out duckduckgo.com, an objective search engine that not only will not track you, it will not shadow ban search results. It will not get paid to put search results at the top of the list, like certain companies, of which I'm sure you are aware, who try to shake down people like YouTubers for money so that your websites will be placed higher on their proprietary search engines, which you should not use because they are political hacks. Here ends the "your ass in a hole in the ground" segment. We encourage our viewers to understand the distinction. Now, big tech is the world's largest purveyor of
propaganda.
Now, propaganda is a congregation of the Roman Curia having jurisdiction over missionary territories and related institutions. Well, that's only if it's capitalized, because that's referring to a specific group of humans. Propaganda really is the spreading of ideas, information, or rumor for the purpose of helping or injuring an institution, cause, or person. Now, this definition used to have the word false ideas. I guess they've removed the word false from the definition of the word propaganda, which is perhaps propaganda in itself, isn't it? Ideas, facts, or allegations spread deliberately to further one's cause or to damage an opposing cause. Also, a public action having such an effect. Dear Big Tech, stop attempting to influence us with a bunch of nonsense and
propaganda,
because it's really easy for us to do the research and make you look like idiots, much the way CNN is dying and moving out of England. Big tech is a desiccated corpse, and Apple does not get a pass either. People think their Apple products are safe, and you have to submit to terms of service when you install an app on that device. Guess what? It spies on you just like an Android device. There are already links in the description under the video. Your iPhone harvests and transmits massive amounts of data while you sleep. Enjoy that. Now, the Android operating system is owned by Google. If you weren't aware, Google owns the Android operating system. It is not open source. Otherwise, you could root your phone without destroying it. You could uninstall the bloatware that is installed on your Android devices. Just thought you might like to know. As I learned how to write, I learned to code in about 1984. So actually probably more like 82, I guess. Yeah, 82 when I was about 6. Now, let's go to phys.org and really talk about some BS. Now, we talk all the time about how there are ridiculous, nonsensical articles that don't understand atmospheric physics clearly, that are telling you that the planet is so cold because it's hot, right? The reason the planet is so cold is because of global warming. Well, here's an article that will attempt to tell you just that. Now, what this is about is a climate model. That's all it is. Somebody was like, hey, let's mess with these variables in our climate model regarding the role of ozone, and that will give us different results, which blah, 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 which we don't understand the physics. It doesn't include solar forcing. It uses a supercomputer to take the garbage in and produce garbage out. So here's another article suggesting to you that the planet is so hot that it's cold. And I mean, with the new model system, we can now realistically reproduce the observed changes in the jet stream. Oh, really? Oh, really? They seem to think that the weakened jet stream is due to climate change, when climate change is what's they've got it backwards once again. You know, the way temperature modulates CO2 and CO2 does not modulate temperature, the way they don't understand negative feedback loops and positive feedback loops. I mean, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? This is pathetic. Please email the people that wrote this article and ask them where they're getting their data from. Don't harass them. Just ask them where they're getting their data from. In addition, our findings confirm that the more frequently occurring cold phases in winter in the US, Europe, and Asia are by no means a contradiction to global warming. Rather, they are part of anthropogenic climate change. Are you serious? That is pathetic. I am calling you out, Eric Romansky et al., you hacks. I mean, really? Take a screenshot of that one, folks. Take a screenshot of that one. That right there, Professor Marcus Rex, head of atmospheric research at the AWI. Are you kidding me, dude? Professor Marcus Rex, please come on the show. Please explain how it's so hot that it's cold. You hack. Direct Democracy is the Future of Human Governance, Part 2, an article on Zero Hedge about how mob rule is what the planet wants. And there's a reason we have a constitutional republic in the US. It's because direct democracy kind of sucks. You can convince a lot of people to do a lot of stupid things. And anyway, we're looking for less centralized control, please. Less centralized control. Dear federal government, please do less things, eliminate entire cabinet departments, and shrink. Thanks, Christian Westbrook, for your grand solar minimum crop loss map. We've probably got some in Pennsylvania. I don't know if they're figured in yet. Let's try to zoom in. I know we've got late plantings all across the country here. And we did have some hailstorms. We had some golf ball size hail in the Lehigh Valley. So there should be some additions here. There were all kinds of damage done. There was a tornado actually around the border of Lehigh and Bucks County. Let's talk about climate change, since it's all over the news all the time. Here's the last 15,000 years of climate change, going all the way to the last full glaciation and the Younger Dryas cooling and warming. Let it sink in. Links in the description to this. Also, please share with your friends so that they understand the distinction between their ass and a hole in the ground. Here's CO2 versus temperature over the last 600 million years. Please let that sink in too. If you think the temperature changes are caused by CO2, I really feel sorry for you. Please show this graph to somebody. It took these two graphs to convince my mom that climate change isn't real. Here's the past 500 million years of climate change. I would note that the ice at Antarctica formed when the planet was 3 degrees Celsius warmer than it is today. About 33 million years ago, suddenly ice started to form in Antarctica while it was 3 degrees Celsius warmer than it is today. Also keep in mind, at the Minoan warm period, sea levels were 300 feet higher than they are right now. Massive flooding in the Lehigh Valley leaves muddy rivers, road closures in Forks Township. I know Easton, PA is getting flooded also. I know Dorney Park is taking their personalized bullets off of the shelf because of some anti-gun activist. And Martin Tower's razed to the ground. If you're not familiar with Martin Tower, let's watch a video of it and get rid of the audio. A waste of a perfectly good building full of high quality steel. We're not sure the exact financial incentive of imploding this building, but for some reason they did it anyway. And then they warned all the Bethlehem residents in the area to watch out for asbestos in their water. You may have to run your water for an extended period of time. Anyway, there's the implosion of Martin Towers. One of the final symbols of Bethlehem Steel, besides the steel stacks and massive other portions of infrastructure all over the valley. All right, let's move on here, as there's still more stuff to cover.
Hello, this is Tony Heller from RealClimateScience.com, setting the record straight about climate.
So I want to go to a Tony Heller video here for a minute. There are links in the description to this also. I'm just going to play a small clip. Please don't ban me. Shout out Tony. We want to have you on the show, so leave a comment if you watch the videos.
And hysteria about what's causing the extreme weather. They're blaming the floods and tornadoes on global warming, when in fact it's cold that's causing them. And a few weeks ago, the press was saying the exact opposite.
You see, cold causes tornadoes. You need a temperature disparity for tornadoes. That's caused by the cold and by the meridional jet stream flow. So let's let him continue here for one moment, as I think I have documented enough of this with my velvety voice.
Washington Post, December 26, 2018. 2018 will be the first year with no violent tornadoes in the United States. According to the press, the 1 part per 10,000 increase in carbon dioxide over the last century causes no tornadoes. It causes lots of tornadoes. And in fact, they attempt to blame just about every phenomenon in nature on the tiny increase in carbon dioxide.
Anyway, watch that video. Tony is the best. He puts stuff together the same way we do. Speaking of putting stuff together, I know there's a lot of people really, really worried about things like, oh, I don't know, Greenland melting. Let's see how melted Greenland is. It's almost June, folks. We're only one day from June. And I'm really, really worried about Greenland. Can you hear the stress in my voice? I'm really concerned. And has Greenland melted yet? Oh my gosh. Is it? It looks like, oh, okay. I think it's safe. There's still 9 feet of snow from coast to coast. Phew. I was really worried about Greenland melting, folks. Fortunately, Greenland has not melted. Family begins cleanup process after tree crushes their Doylestown home. And that is associated with the ridiculous storms that we had the past several days. As many as 100 homes damaged after strong storms in Montgomery County. Tornado touched down near Lehigh and Bucks. Lots of cars got damaged. So I'm not sure what the estimated financial damage of this is, but the Lehigh Street Auto Mile is one of the largest auto sales areas in the entire country. And part of the Lehigh Street Auto Mile got hit. So, not good for your insurance stocks if you've got those in your portfolio. I'll bet they're going to lose value today in the U.S. stock market. We're not going to cover it. One last uplifting article, concussion symptoms reversed by magnetic therapy. Links in the description of this video, also for this, medicalexpress.com. 2 guys with names that I dare not pronounce. Magnetic stimulation using a laptop-style device for 20 minutes per day improved the ability of rodents with concussion to walk in a straight line, navigate a maze, run on a wheel, and perform cognitive tests, according to research published in the Journal of Neurotrauma. So a great article. Super interesting. Let's see if we see any umbra coming up off the sun. And then run away from this computer as if it's started on fire. We'll look at the orange intensity gram as there is penumbra rising for sure. It looks like the umbra is at the trailing edge of this sunspot or plage. And I've got some dirt on my monitor. Let me bring out the chat. And I'm going to give 1 minute and then I'm going to come right back. So any comments you want to leave, folks, leave them now. We're going to go through it in a minute. I just got to step away for 1 moment here. So bear with us. I'm going to zoom way in. Again, I'll be back in 1 minute. So bear with us. Thanks again for tuning in, everybody. I really appreciate the comments. Keep in mind, folks, food prices have already spiked. We see spikes in the commodities of wheat, corn, and soybeans. We already covered it on this channel. I think that was yesterday or possibly 2 days ago. And we've been calling out the fact that food prices will rise for the past 2 months. So please prepare yourself for that. I enjoy the ketogenic diet, so the food that I eat is going to experience less of an uptick in price because the biggest hit things will be grains, followed by meat due to the uptick in animal feed price. And here's a 94 angstroms view. I think we'll close out the video on that one. Actually, let's do 171 angstroms. It remains my favorite. It looks so bright and cheery and sunny. Also, if you like the Soho actually shows the 171 angstroms in blue. I don't know if you care, but it's true. It's true. And I quoted Kurt Angle again. What's up with that? No, I do not watch pro wrestling, if you're wondering. Anyway, I hope everybody gets their plantings done. Please, if you're watching this after the live stream, please leave a comment about that. We're interested to hear if your soil's dry enough to plant, and you know, if your soil's frozen in some spots. There are places that have 50 inches of snow in the Rockies yet. So leave a comment. From what I understand, Harry, that is correct. You have to attempt to try to plant the stuff or you will not get the insurance. It's true. Crop losses over the past 2 years have been stupendous and varied. Agreed. I mean, there are pig shortages in China. Australia has become a net importer of grain. We've been saying this for like a year on the channel. I mean, it's a compounding thing. And we don't want to see folks eating their seed crops next year, because if that happens, that's kind of one of the worst things you could possibly see. Also, we don't want to see the Thames freeze. If the Thames freezes, we're going to see some bad times. The Thames does freeze. If you weren't aware, look it up. And I completely forgot to cover volcanoes today. Thanks for reminding me. I'm going to go back. It's like a bonus. Harry, the warnings went out. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. The warnings went out about the building debris. And the building's full of asbestos. That's the reason why it was torn down, because it's too expensive to retrofit it, allegedly. which I don't really believe. I think there's an ulterior motive. But anyway, whatever. Okay, bonus section. I don't know how I missed it, but somehow I did. VolcanoDiscovery.com. Do a volcano rundown. As quickly as possible, Mount Etna back to erupting. Oh man, serious eruption there with more lava flows. Well-fed moving into the Valle del Bove, accompanied by loud strombolian activity at the vents. Shout out Italians if you're watching it. Let us know what you think of the Giro d'Italia, who's going to win the Giro d'Italia, and let us know your forecast on Etna. Mount Ibu also erupting with a 7,000-foot ash plume there. Ducono, 7,000-foot plume there. Mount Agung has upticked explosive activity in a 30,000-foot ash plume. Please don't broad jump it. Popocatépetl, back on the list, explosive activity there, 20,000-foot plume. So volcanic uptick, folks. New emissions at Poás in Costa Rica. They've received information suggesting new volcanic ash emissions. Revenador, 17,000-foot plume there, and Sabancay with a 23,000-foot plume. So that's a legit volcanic uptick, folks, all around the world. If you weren't aware, now you know. Thanks for tuning in. Remember, when you're staring at the sun, don't drink, and if you drink, stare at the sun anyway, just don't drive. And since it'll never be now again, may the solar wind be at your back and the atherosclerosis absent from your veins.